You are now listening.
You are now listening
to the Black Male Educators Alliance podcast.
Lifting our voices.
Lifting our voices.
Welcome back to another episode of Lifting Our Voices, the BMEA Podcast. I'm with my co-host, the great and honorable Dr. Curtis L. Lewis. How you feeling today, man?
Come on, man. Stop
Every
that.
day I got to add something new.
I know you adding it, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate it, man.
Good,
I'm glad to be here.
How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling real good right now. I feel good. Tired.
Good?
I'm good. Everything good, man.
Yeah.
Good. How about you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Life is good. I want to send condolences to family. Rest in peace, Ronald Colson, my son's grandfather. My grandfather passed away, so rest in peace to him. But other than that, doing well. Birthday's coming up in a month, so I'm excited about that. Which really that's the new year for me. So
that's your new year.
That's my new year. When that means it's about to get warmer in a little bit, so I'm excited for.
February is about after you feel like it's getting warmer.
No, not in Detroit, but somewhere.
Oh, somewhere.
So I gotta go somewhere else feel warm. But yeah, I'm good. We got a really special guest. I know I always say that, but we do got a really, really special guest. This young brother actually was in one of my classes, my first class that I came to Detroit, while I was working for you. At my former job, man. So I'm going to give him the opportunity to introduce himself, but I want everyone to welcome Nando Felton.
How's it going, everybody? I'm welcome to be here. It's an honor to have my former principal and my last math teacher I had in high school. So it's a really cool, unique opportunity to just be here and just kind of talk a little about my story, how I came to be after high school and what I decided to do with my life. And everything kind of came around back full circle, which is pretty dope.
That is dope, man. So I know you're going to say it. Before you say it, I tell people all the time, teaching in high school is tough because you're trying to get young brothers and young sisters ready for adulthood, and it's never enough time, right? And, whatever people decide to go into, I've probably made more rappers than mathematicians, but whatever people decide to go into, I always wanted them to know I support them and I'm happy for them as long as that's what they, they feel passionate about. So you have a special case, I think, because, we've talked a little bit about your journey and your ideas around what you want to do. So I want to talk a little bit more about what you did after high school and what your plans are.
Yeah, so following high school, decided to go to U of M. It was actually interesting during the time. I wasn't even actually a U.S. citizen, so I applied to a lot of schools. I remember I got into Michigan State first. I was actually really excited. That's a whole side conversation, but ended up going to U of M. They were the only ones that recognized me as being a DACA student and accepted me on a full-ride scholarship, which was amazing. And I decided to pursue my education in engineering, which was a challenge coming from Detroit, in the sense of where our highest math class we had was pre-calculus. And I know we put that into effect because they realized a lot of us wanted to go to college. And a lot of these colleges require certain level math courses just to get into the introductory levels of college. So Mr. Payne, I call him Mr. Payne still, he was our pre-calculus teacher. And, from him, this being his first year, to us, we didn't even realize the proximity of age he was, of just like recently being a college graduate. He came with so much maturity and so much background knowledge of just life wisdom. He attended the HBCU, which I think is something you can't take away from his experiences, especially going to PWI. It's a whole different level of just finding yourself. I feel like I dealt with a lot of imposter syndrome, but just having black professionals like Dr. Lewis, Mr. Payne, and other assortment that I had at HFA, SCS at the time, kind of helped drive me to where I wanted to be. I realized that I could look up and see a profession in front of me, and that kind of helped motivate me, taught me, certain life values. I learned how to tie a tie during senior penning, these little values that, Mr. McLeod taught me how to tie a tie during senior penning. So these certain things that, as a black male in Detroit, there's certain things and traits that you want to learn, but sometimes your family at home, you might have a single parent, your father and I might be in the picture, your mother and I might be in the picture, and there's someone there to step up and kind of help you, tie your shoes, say, hey, you got to own a suit when you get to college because of, different things. You want to land a career, you want to get an internship. So I went to engineering track. I realized I did it for 3 years. It was incredible. I always had a dream of working for Ford, interned there 2 summers. I got published 3 times as an undergrad doing advanced battery research. I thought I found my niche. I thought I found my passion in that field. And for me, I was super excited. When you tell somebody, you're an engineer, and all of a sudden you tell somebody you want to go to education, they kind of like, oh, what you mean? What you mean? You're going to be a teacher, you're not going to make money? And it was just like this whole thing when I decided to switch my major 3 years into college and follow my heart, follow my passion. And I say it came back full circle because, I never really forgot where I came from. And I was, I wanted to reach back to the community where I just left from. And and keep giving back, keep pouring into them. So I decided to, in the middle of college, didn't know how to switch majors, decided, I'm going to go switch majors to education, and I made it. I was able to, that summer, intern for the Michigan Department of Education, working on MI STEM, which is a part of the work in science, technology, and math for the 16 regions in Michigan. So I worked on grant reviews with Megan Schraubin. She's an incredible person. Worked with them over the summer. And I just found that there's so much opportunity and so much untapped potential in Detroit. I saw a lot of the money was going to these well-resourced schools, well-resourced communities. They had some, urban planning going on where there were, a lot of rural schools in Michigan that do exist. They were getting the funding as well as needed, but they were overlooking Detroit. You know what I'm saying? The community where I had just left from. And I was like, something ain't right. If a school in West Bloomfield can be ranked one of the top schools in America, and 20 minutes south in Detroit, it's one of the most a failing school. Like, if that system exists, like, why is that happening? You know what I'm saying? Because we know something, we're doing something right 20 minutes north, or 20 minutes south, we're failing them. So I feel like we all have our mark in fighting this system and finding a way to give back or, play our part in that. So I decided to, pursue education fully, finish undergrad, getting a degree in education policy, and I decided to go right off and get my master's in education technology back at U of M. And that's where I'm at now. And along the way, I had an opportunity to work at a company called Google for the program called Code Next, where I was hired as a community manager to act as a liaison between Google, Ford, Michigan Central to recruit high school students in Detroit to teach them how to code. And, it's came back full circle, having that engineering technical background in college that I helped that developed. And it really started at HFASCS. For a lot of you who don't know, it was an art school. So, every semester we took an art class. We went through the whole art design process, from ideating to prototyping to redesigning to then actually having a senior practicum where we were placed at an internship site in high school. You know what I'm saying? So a lot. And the thing was, I carried that Shinola internship on my resume up until I graduated college. You know what I'm saying? It held that much weight on my resume to say I was at Shinola for 6 months as an intern. I worked in the Photoshop studio, design studio. I worked on designing my own products for them. It was like dope and incredible. And that was something to help foster my creative side, at HFASCS. And just seeing how the potentials and opportunities that that were shown to me and shown to some of my peers, and a lot of opportunities that were overlooked for us, like within curriculum and other extracurricular activities that, we didn't have control over, our teachers didn't have control over, but they tried our best to make sure if they had a connection, they had a resource, that they brought them to us. So that's where I am today.
Man.
I feel good, man.
The show is over.
I feel real good.
We are now done.
Yeah.
Man, it just listening to you, man, I forgot how, there was some great things that was happening. Shout out to HF Alive to help, implement those things. But no, I appreciate that, man. And we joke all the time about Michigan State. Michigan State noticed your greatness first, so just make sure you understand that. Yeah. But I appreciate you sharing that and taking us through your journey. Just a quick question, like a follow-up question. What would if you can think back as you've been reflecting on your high school experience, is there one thing that you felt like, man, I wish I would have experienced that or explored that in high school that would have made your experience at U of M different or improved?
I think that just with the background that we had going to the high school is just, I wouldn't want to replace it. You know what I'm saying? A lot of kids at U of M, we could tell that they had already seen the curriculum. They were already exposed to it, and for them, they would come to class, hungover, and then they'll be successful. For us, it was a struggle, you know what I'm saying? And I think that built perseverance. It helped carry that grit we had from high school to college. I wouldn't really change anything. I just wish that, that I can make change in the sense of we can provide the exposure in the curriculum and continue having representation in the classroom. For a lot of my peers, they didn't have black teachers. They didn't have black educators, you know what I'm saying? So going back to, me saying that's like the first profession you interact with, I didn't know any black doctors growing up. I knew one black engineer, and that was kind of the reason why I wanted to be an engineer. I didn't know black doctors. I knew of one black lawyer, and that was my best friend's uncle, you know what I'm saying? And that's it. I didn't really know what I could become in life, At the time, we had a black president-elect, Barack Obama, which is amazing, but it was still so far-fetched for us to see ourselves in these certain levels and positions. So, going back to your question, Dr. Lewis, I think I would want to make change for who's next to come. But at the time, if I could change something, I think what we had in place, I mean, was set up for us to be successful with our own ideas, our own inventions. You know, it was, I think, learning art, learning a certain medium, you know, of expressing yourself, presenting yourself, and the thing is that technically, like, in art, you're not really wrong. You know what I'm saying? Because it's your expression, it's the way you want to go about it. Of course, you can grade somebody. I've learned like a line quality or following, you know, symmetry, balance, and I think other people can talk more about that, but I wouldn't change anything.
Oh. Yeah. Hey, appreciate that.
No, dope. And to your last point too, and one thing I've always said about our schools, one thing I loved about HFA was the art aspect of it, but I think that creativity is like some of the most important currency we have as individuals. But I also think as a teacher, I've seen probably the most critical thinking and reasoning and like thoughtfulness out of kids when they were like tuned into something that required their creativity.
Yeah.
So we have all these schools that are just so focused on topics that are testable, right? Things that we can test, just the math and just the reading, and not enough opportunities for kids to like to do art or to do music or to do media or anything like that. We take away their opportunity to build their intelligence through their creativity. So I think, to your point, there was really a lot of good things going on at that school, and because of the opportunity for you to explore your creativity. A follow-up question to you as well is, so you talked about this transition from engineering into education. Obviously, I made a similar transition, and I think that I don't know if there was a specific point for me that made me realize that this was my passion. But like, could you point to a specific time or instance or event or even just a person that made you say like, okay, this is what I think I'm passionate about, and speak to that?
Yeah. So in undergrad, I took a class in a residential college. It was a program called Telling It at U of M, and this program focuses on trauma-informed based learning through the arts. So we did creative arts, did theater with the kids, and taught them, just let them be creative and flowing, and where there is help to support, their needs. I did it at a community center in Ypsilanti. I did that for about 2.5 years, and I stopped right during COVID, and I did some work with them during the summertime. But, for me, that was kind of what showed me I wanted to make that switch and that change over just the work that I was doing. This is the first time I was interacting with kids like on a weekly level. They were from like 3rd grade to freshman to high school, I believe. This center is called Park Ridge Community Center, Ypsilanti. It's a great program. Anyone should go check it out if they have kids in the area. But what we were doing is, we had very in-depth classes. I mean, the classes were 3 hours long, and we learned about trauma-informed based learning. What it's like if, a kid might be experiencing, child abuse at home, or just, there's so many different forms of trauma that, that I've learned about, and just, how it's presented. I'm saying? How kids we might label them as bad or say they're misbehaving, but at the end of the day, it's something way deeper than that. Refraining from using that type of verbiage. But yeah, man, it was an incredible experience. I remember just kids, just seeing you in the space, Like I was the only black male there besides like, the other staff that worked there, but like only black male intern from U of M working there, and they were just drawn to me. They would try to jump on my back, like have me pick them up. It was just like a really cool experience to see how, somebody can look up to you and see something within you, even though you're not really particularly from this community, but you still represent, somebody that you're trying to serve. So that opportunity, and I continued that on for like 2.5 years, working with the program, Telling It, just to be a mentor, support for the kids, working with them. And it was just like very like opening to see. And like I said, it come back full circle because I realized all the people that were in my life helping me. I couldn't have done all this by myself. And so I look back at the teachers, the role models. I mean, the people like Dr. Lewis, who I still talk to today, graduated, 6 years ago now, which is pretty cool to say. 7 years now, 7 years. So
7 years.
And you see how important of a role that they were in your life, but it might not seem like that at the time. Well, this is just my high school principal. Mm-hmm. I feel like everybody knows who the high school principal is, but it's a different level of relationship when it's somebody that they want to help foster the community. They're working to make sure that you can adapt in this new learning environment and space. The world that Dr. Lewis had when he was 20, 24 years old, different than the world we have now. But, our teachers and staff, they gave us their expertise and then taught us. And being in such close proximity with these kids, for me, moving into education, I think has helped me as well. Not being that far removed from high school and seeing how I just left that space and already wanted to give back, I think helped me too kind of propel me into an educational space because I had that like understanding and that close proximity in age. So.
All right, so man, I appreciate you sharing that, man. It's just really listening to you is inspiring to me just to see your the route you're taking to do this work, which leads me to this question. You seem to be taking like a non-traditional route. Like you're not like just going straight into the classroom and being a teacher. You're taking different routes to that. Explain why you just didn't like, hey, I'm just gonna go be a 9th grade math teacher, but instead you went these other routes, which I think is just as valuable. Kind of talk to us about that.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to just see like what was going on, what is being implemented, into people's communities. Like how can they make change outside of the classroom? I learned that education doesn't stop in the classroom, and that was something I thought was very important when a lot of times, your guardian, your parent has so much trust in the school, and they kind of just leave you there and think that all your growth is going to come from your school. So I found that, extracurricular activities were really important because, before I got to college, I thought having a tutor was something bad. I thought staying after to do more work or going to summer school was bad because you're playing catch up. But no, it's really to get ahead. It's to advance. It's to see the material and to just keep moving forward. So I was like, let me take the route of engineering, STEM, technology, because that in the market right now, that's one of the highest paying jobs, and I feel like for me as being a black male, I don't see a lot of me in the space of education for one part, like less than 2% of teachers are black males, and that's factual somewhere. But I took the non-traditional approach because I wanted to do the work hands-on first. I wanted to see, what I could do, what change I could help make, if I could create a technology, work on a curriculum, a lesson plan to help students. There's so much untapped potential to gain that sense of I can be an engineer, I can be a doctor, I can be a rocket scientist. Like it's real. It's not just Elon Musk, it's not just Mark Zuckerberg, it's not just Jeff Bezos, but it could be Dr. Lewis, Mr. Payne, Nando Felton. Like it could be yourself and that you see in these roles. And so that's why I took like the non-traditional approach. I realized that like a black kid and a white kid, when they get to college, they both want to be successful. They both want to do great things. They both want to graduate. But I realized that drop-off rate between my peers who are black and my counterparts, acquaintances who are white, they looked up and saw themselves in these places. But we looked up and we couldn't see ourselves there. It didn't exist. The seat I sat in at the company I work for now, it's the first time a black male was hired in that position ever.
Wow.
So just having that understanding of what's going on in this space, after Brown versus Board, how at that time there was 40,000 professionals who were black teachers, and then this law was passed, and white people didn't want black teachers teaching their white kids, so they was like, y'all got to go. And that's kind of
like you've been reading and stuff.
Yeah. So
speak.
It's I took the non-traditional route because I wanted to do. I feel like with education, I feel like sometimes you got to do growth and take a non-traditional approach to making change, because if we keep trying to do what's already going on, like I don't think we're gonna get anywhere. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just trying to recreate it a little bit, make it spin a little differently, or spin in the direction that we want it to.
See, he used to valedictorian too.
I'm taking credit for a lot of this stuff. You obviously bring up really, really great points. And as much as Dr. Lewis and I want, like, a lot of our young brothers to be educators, right? The most important thing is that I want you guys to be successful in whatever you choose to do, and that you see yourself there. And I think oftentimes you couldn't even get to that engineering place if you didn't have black, teachers in your face to tell you that you can get to college, or black professors to tell you can do this route, whatever. So everybody's role is important. And I think just for us as educators, like, all we want to do is see y'all succeed. Whatever y'all choose to do, that you succeed, that you're passionate about it, and that it fulfills you, and that it also supports the community. You know what I mean? So we're very, very, very proud. And to your point earlier about, seeing yourself, there's a recent, issue in Florida where Governor DeSantis or whatever, and he's obviously making some sort of political campaign, try to be president, try to do Trump 2.0. But he banned AP African American Studies for whatever reason. He stated one, but it was obviously like he said it wasn't like important for like educational value. It didn't have an educational value. So first of all, what are your thoughts? And you can just say how you feel. And then secondly, what classes do you think are important for high school or that aren't already a class, if you could come up with any?
Yeah, I mean, going right off your point, I'll jump into what's important that we don't have in class yet, because that's going to reflect how important it is to have African American studies, or having roots to your heritage. It's, like I said, seeing people that look like you in these places have already existed, but you can't just wipe it off the face of the history, which they're trying to do. Mm-hmm. They're trying to put like those Elons in the front of the news, in front of the media, and take away from other people who look like us in these places that do exist. But if I had a class in high school that I would want to take, or think the community should take, it'll be a form of financial literacy, and also a form of learning, untaught soft skills, like how to network, how to build your resume, how to, falling into that, like how to leverage credit, how to get credit. And I think that just is something that at the dinner table growing up, I didn't hear a lot. I knew that your bank account could over withdraw. I knew that you were behind on bills. I didn't know that you could, pull out a loan and buy a house at 18, and you could do X, Y, Z. These were things I just learned by reading and just being around people that, were, had a different, dealt a different hand of cards than me. You know what I'm saying? So, but I feel like there's a lot of things that we weren't taught as kids growing up that I wasn't taught, especially like in these, soft taught skills. There's a lot of like social capital that we weren't taught in schools, that we were given the opportunity and exposure to with our faculty and staff at the school. I think that's one thing that you couldn't take away from HFA. We had a very, diverse teaching staff, in a sense of, it wasn't really diverse, but it was great for us because it was black. It was black males, it was black women, and so if you think about it, it wasn't really diverse, but for us, it was a diverse, different walk of life. We had teachers from all across the United States, teachers from different schools, and we even had teachers who were in different Greek fraternities and sororities, where I think gave us a really unique push on this social capital, because we realized what they brought to us from each of the organizations was really unique, and they, I think, pushed on us the greatness and all of those things amongst us, and what they took from there, and how they foster their communities, and now how they're helping grow us. So if there's like a combination of like financial literacy, black power, and I feel like there's a way in college for that. I'm not in a fraternity or sorority. I'm in a fraternity, but I feel like there's importance behind all these things, because we stand for something. We hold ourselves accountable, and there's a history. There's a deep lineage with these things, and it shows that there have been a lot of feats and things that have been created by people that look like us. It might have even been our family members. But if we're trying to remove this AP U.S. history, or sorry, AP American African Studies, they're doing the people that built this country a disservice. You know what I'm saying? Literally, I know I also saw in California how they're trying to work on reparations for black people too, which is incredible. I hope that passes across the country, and for people who've been disenfranchised, raped, pillaged, all that. We can go on the list, but I feel like if we remove these history lessons, this trauma from our community, I feel like there should be ways on fixing the trauma. If they're trying to replace this class, okay, make a class where we're trying to fix the trauma, but you can't delete that out of history. You can't delete that out of schools and textbooks. The way that they already try to do that it's gonna paint this narrative that they want to paint. But at the end of the day, they know how strong we were, how we overcame things, how we helped change America to become, a better place. I feel like even when I got to U of M, there was a bus station on campus called C.C. Little, which is a former U of M president who believed in eugenics. Pretty much meaning that if his ideology came to be, I wouldn't be here. Probably none of us would be here, because he believed in breeding black people like they were cattle. When I got to campus, I was like, I did a campus tour, and I was like, what's this building like? And they told us about that. And I'm like, so y'all telling me just because he did some science BS on eugenics that he can have a building on campus, and y'all supporting that? I was like, nah. I took a stand, did a lot of activism work, and I feel like if I didn't have people who did the work before me to help me and tell me what to do, how to navigate this world of trying to make sure that we can be in a space where we're comfortable and we want to learn and want to study, you know what I'm saying? If I didn't have that history or no one there to refer to, if you're telling me I couldn't look in a textbook or look on Google or find a class that's in my high school to know I can go talk to XYZ person, because they've already been a part of this system. They've already had a fight for civil rights, for our liberties, for our freedoms, and you wipe that off the face. I feel like it shouldn't be reason why we shouldn't have it, but more reasons on why we should have more, or have more classes where we talk about, just the sense of representation isn't met for Black people in general. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like just including that more in curriculums and intertwining it in there. I feel like a lot of these things aren't embedded into curriculums. Mm-hmm. They're things that teachers have the freedom to include, but a lot of times you can Google all the standards for every state and city you live in for the educational standards, and you'll see a lot of times it's just like 2 or 3 sentences is a curriculum. When I was looking that up, I was like, wow, you telling me like this a couple words mean so much, but then if you go against that, now it's a red line. So yeah.
Man, this guy here, I don't think we sat this long, this quiet for any of our.
I'm listening.
That's what I'm like, man. I
didn't want to interrupt.
No, I didn't. No, this is great, man. I'm glad you are finding your creative ways to get involved with kids, because I do consider you an educator. Whether educators are just not in the schools, they're also folks who are just working with our youth in different ways. So shout out to you for that. And as it relates to Ronnie, I want to say some other words, but I'm gonna be appropriate. Ronnie, I'm gonna call him Ronnie, or Ron, or R, or whatever. But I'm not even. I was talking to my brother the other day. Him and his family just moved down to Florida. Mm-hmm. And I said that to him. He said, man, I know. And I was just talking to my daughter about some stuff that she's learning in school. And she's learning, like, how to be a stay-at-home mom and stuff like that in school. In 2023, right? And I was like, man, right, folks are voting for him down in Florida. I don't understand it, right? People are looking over, I guess, all these. He's been talking about this before he just got reelected. And he got reelected by like a landslide. Like he killed his opponent, right? So there's a lot of people down there that either are ignoring him or are agreeing with him, right? And so, I'm choosing to just continue to do the work that I'm trying to do, because I can get riled up and be on 10 about the stupidity of some of these politicians that we continue to elect over and over and over again. And so, if people are not rising up down in Florida, like, shame on them. If people are not, taking a stance, shame on them. People continue to, like, get this man in office, like, shame on you, right? He's elected by the people. Yeah. And so clearly, like, there's some people down there who agree with this mess. And so, it's
No, you're right.
This ain't nothing new. I ain't surprised.
No, I'm not surprised too. And to your point, I think your biggest point is that people in Florida need to step up and do something. You know what I mean? If not for their own kids and for that state, just for the country, so it doesn't become a thing where the Southern Belt tries to follow suit. Because to your point, it's proactive in them trying to erase a history and erase certain things. And I think the most interesting thing is that with the coming of the internet and this openness of information, I think people have started to see more of the truth of this country. Yeah. And obviously with that comes a reckoning, right? And you get to a point where you can deny reparations for years and years and years, but then when a generation of Black and white and Asian and Latino children see the truth of the history, then I'm like, well, kind of like you look like y'all owe them something. You know what I mean? Like this country isn't who it says it is. And that's very much important to the image of this country and how it goes about how it works in the world, right? The U.S. tries to be a moral compass for the world, right? But not having solved a lot of its own internal conflicts is one of its black eyes, for no pun intended. And so a part of our fight is always to be on the opposite end of that. I think that I ain't nothing I can do in Florida right now except make sure my people down there are down there aware of what's going on and trying to come up with a plan to fight it. But on our end, we are the opposite end of that, right? Making sure that kids are getting their African-American history. And you slipped up and said like U.S. history, but that Freudian slip wasn't wrong, because African-American studies is U.S. history. And I think that should be the translation, is like how we teach U.S. history needs to be from a black, from a more of a black perspective. Absolutely.
Yeah. I know we have, we talked at the last podcast about the young lady that was unfortunately carjacked and murdered. And so glad to hear that. It's like I'm glad, but it's sad. The whole story is just sad on both ends. That the young man, he was young, was found and arrested, and it breaks my heart to know how old he is, and I know there's a story behind that, right? I know that, and I talked about this around us being soulless, right? And so, like, to hear someone like Nando is like, this is hope. We got some more folks coming on, their hope, and we're going to sort of dig into this conversation around conflict, violence in the Black community, because we're an organization, we want to, increase Black males, we want to do all these other stuff, but, like, we also know, like, we're not operating in a vacuum, right? We also know it's important for us to begin to engage in these conversations, because before we can start talking about, we want to increase the pipeline, like, we got to, like, figure out ways to make sure our kids are not leaving schools and our community soulless, right? Because we won't ever have a pipeline. So we can talk about this all day, but we got to begin to address the real issues. And I'm not afraid to step out there. The BMEA is not afraid to step out there and open up these conversations, because without opening up these conversations, we're going to continue to have this conversation around, we need more Black men, we need more. But are we looking at our schools and we're looking at what's happening in our communities? Right, so what we're going to do to work on and continue to support that effort, as in supporting that effort is going to help this effort, right? So, I can't wait to bring other brothers on in a minute. I was upset about this. I'm still upset about it. I know it's not the first thing, but the first time this has happened, for some reason, this has gotten me on fire, or maybe it was the one thing that wanted me to, like, just got me going forward with this. So I really, as an organization, particularly on our podcast, want to begin to bring these issues to the forefront, because, yes, we want to talk about this. Yes, we want to talk about increasing the number of Black males. All this stuff is great, and it's important, and we're going to continue to do that work. But if we don't begin to address these issues that's happening in our community and figure out solutions and dig in and take it serious, and not just, Martin Luther King Day just passed, everybody marching, quoting stuff, and then when that's over, well, then what? Right? We can march a peaceful march or march for peace. We need to be marching for peace every week, right? You know what I'm saying? So, like, I'm ready for us to, as an organization, begin to address these issues up front. So I'm looking forward to our conversation that's going to happen in a few. But let me, be quiet, because I'm about to get hyped like Nando. One, I want to, like, thank you for coming on, man. Like, you, and I'm going to talk about these other guys when they come on here too, man. As a principal, I became a better principal because of y'all, right? Because of my students, not because of some class I took, not because of my supervisor, not because of anything else. Y'all stretched me, right? And that was important. And I say this story all the time. I remember coming in my first year as a principal in 2014, 2015. So that was my first graduating class. And I think it was y'all class that called me and Chris Will out into the hall. It was a junior class that called us out into the hall and was like, these uniforms, like, what we doing? Right, and called us out, and y'all was hostile. I mean, and I'm saying not hostile in a bad way, but it was like, what y'all gonna do about this? And for the first time, I was like, first I'm coming in like, who y'all talking to? I run this, right? But, like, that was an eye-opening experience for me, right, as a leader. And oftentimes, the answers are right in front of us. Our youth, right, they're right in front of us. So I'm gonna always give y'all a shout out. Thank you for making me a better person, a better principal. Learn some stuff from you today, as always. Continue to do your thing, man. Like always. I can call this guy. He's going to always be there. He's going to make it happen. And just love to see this man work. And I'm going to let you wrap us up.
Absolutely, man. Once again, obviously, Nando, it was really great to hear from you. And look forward to hearing from you again. But to your point, I think that, for me, education isn't just about what's in the classroom. You can ask any of the guys who's going to come on here. They don't remember what I said mathematically, but they remember a lot of the conversations we had, because to me what's important is that I wanted everyone to feel like they had guidance and that they had someone to care about them. So when I think about this story that we keep coming back to, and it's really just a microcosm of a bigger issue, right, where we have soulless, like, misguided young brothers, that really breaks my heart. So I wanted us to have an opportunity to give voice to young brothers, first off, because it's like me and you talking, I would say we're on the other end of young. You know what I'm saying? So giving the younger brothers an opportunity to talk a little bit about how they feel, what they think is going on amongst their peers, what they think is going on in the culture, and then what are some of their ideas around solutions, right? Because like you said, the youth sets the tone for everything. They set the culture, they set the trends, the fashion, And they see beyond what we can see because we've already been indoctrinated into a world that we currently live in. But they can see what's coming next. Yeah. So it's really important for them to have their voices on too. So I'm excited to bring them brothers on next. So we have some more gentlemen, former students, grown men now, to join us in this conversation. We thought it was important to have their voice be a part of this conversation around the youth. Particularly young adults, because I think that, like, obviously once they're out of high school, once they're out of school, they have to fend for the world themselves. And I think part of me wants to figure out how do we still support our young brothers into adulthood, because, I think 18 is really young. And, we assume that once we turn 18, we're adults, and we, of course, be on our own and independent. But I also feel like maybe we don't really do a good enough job to a really good enough job of preparing them for the world and supporting them through that. Like, not just saying, like, all right, here, you got it, you go. Yeah. But, every step of the way, or continually supporting them. So I'm going to have you brothers introduce yourself, say your name, what I'm saying, what you're interested in and what you're doing, and, like, what some of your passions are.
All right, I'll lead it off. My name is Jalen Barney. I'm an artist or a creator. Something you say.
Interested in, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm interested in art and music mostly.
What's up? My name is Alonzo Jones. I'm probably passionate about culinary. I like cooking and stuff like that, and music, but I don't really want to get into the music for real because there's a lot that come with that. But other than that, yeah.
All right, I'm Lorenzo Jones. I say the same, into cooking and music.
So look, y'all, that's funny. Y'all too much. Y'all know how to cook. Y'all know I'm gonna hold y'all to that, right? So I'm gonna bring y'all over to the house, and y'all gonna throw down on some food. Now, don't I don't want no eggs, no tacos. I want some real, like
holiday meals.
Okay, like I even started with some soul food. Like, let's just start there. But just want to jump in real quick, man. These three brothers are also former students of mine, and as I was talking to Nando, I talk about how my students pushed me to be a better person. And I remember, they have all three of them have gotten on my nerves at some point in their high school career. When they absolutely have gotten on my nerves to the point where, we've had discussions about whether this was the right place for y'all. You know what I'm saying? Right? Yeah. And so, but I think it's important, man, because I've kept in touch with all of them. I like to keep in touch with most of my students anyway. But one of the things I want to just point out, and I'm going to talk about y'all real brief, because I just think this is important. Like Jalen been into art for a long time. He's like talented as heck. And I wish we had time. We can probably show at some point some of his artwork that he's doing. You want to shout out to him about the work. I mean, like, if you need some drawings, and I want to make sure I'm saying the proper language. Like, what are you actually?
Illustrator.
Illustrator. See, I'm saying drawings. Illustrator. Yeah. Right. So you want somebody so you can do like portraits and stuff like that.
The whole 9 yards. So graphics, animations. Well, I'm just now getting into animations, but graphics, portraits. That whole signage.
Yeah, so anybody want any of that work, maybe we'll post some of his work on our website, on our social media platforms. Like, reach out to this brother. He's been really talented. So I've always, been on his head about, his talent and, being who Jalen is and making sure he's focusing on being the best version of himself. And I've been preaching to him about that since high school, and I still preach to him about that as a grown man. Yeah. And so, and I look at these two, man, they thought they was running my school for a while. Yeah, they thought they were running the school, man, and they thought and I remember one day seniors yet. They were like freshmen, sophomore. Oh yeah, they were like freshmen, sophomore, like they was running the school. Yeah. And he's like, the twins. So when I remember meeting them one day. I can't remember, we was in a hallway on the first floor. And I said, look, y'all don't run this. I don't think I used that language. I'm almost sure I didn't use that language. But I was made it clear, y'all don't like this. This is my joint. Y'all want to be, understand, this is my space. Yeah. But what I appreciated about them was they pushed me is they help sort of create the culture of the school. Yeah. Right? And I think it's very, very important for us to understand that, man, these are great, all three of them are great human beings. Yeah. All three are great. And I'm telling y'all that now. I've told y'all that before. Y'all are great human beings, and I think the important piece for me, and we're gonna get into some stuff in a minute, but I just wanted to say this to y'all, is that like I think y'all, like y'all, how do I have to look like? No, I thank y'all for making me better. Like y'all, all of y'all made me a better principal, like a better person. Right, gave me a different way of thinking about things, right? Because we grow up and white supremacy is real. And so we have this one view of like what a greatness look like or what it sound like or what it should be. And y'all was like, nah, this ain't what we doing, right? And so in y'all own way, it was getting on my nerves because it was pushing me, right? It was pushing me in ways that I wasn't pushing before. So like, thank y'all, which is why I love y'all dearly. Y'all know if anybody mess with you, like y'all know. Like, but y'all my people, so I just want to thank y'all for being on here. They're a little nervous. We'll call that out, but they gonna do well. All right, so I'm gonna be quiet and turn it over to Payne.
No, man, and I think part of the reason we chose you guys specifically, even why we gravitated, is because I think you always have been leaders, right? And I think what part of what really tears me apart is that I don't think we cultivate our leaders into finding what they can be leaders about, right? And so what ends up happening is you either hope they fall into something positive and be leaders that way, or they become leaders in the other direction, right? And I think I see that early with y'all, and I think that in this conversation I want to have, I think y'all opinion will be really, really important, because we want to see from your lens, like, how does it feel as a young man to deal with the ills of trying to figure out who you want to be, right? Trying to figure out relationships, understanding relationships, how to deal with conflict, how to deal with who people say black men should be, right? And I think that I had to recognize that I came from a place of privilege of navigating similar worlds that y'all have navigated, but like now being an adult and then speaking from like, well, you know, you got to do it like this and you got to be like this, kind of like you were saying, right? That's not necessarily the truth, right? And so they've checked me, especially with the high school, especially 12th grade, 'cause I came from elementary, so I'm like, this is how it goes. And they're like, well, maybe it's not how it goes. And I'm like, you want to be grown, you know what I'm saying? But so my first question for y'all is, what do you think was missing, if anything, from high school that would have prepared you better for adulthood?
Me, honestly, I'm going to probably say,
It's probably a lot, but yeah, just think of.
All right, I'm going to probably say, like, that's a good question.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It is, but and what because I know we think oftentimes like, oh, we need to do this and that, but y'all are, it's a different generation too, right? So y'all are closer out of high school than I was, and I can tell you, for me, like, I didn't know how to be independent, right? Household stuff. Even though you live with your parents, like, being independent is a thing, and there are some things that your parents don't know, right? That you need to know for adulthood. Like, I had a student who came to me like, Mr. Payne, I didn't know you needed this amount of pay stubs to get an apartment, right? And I'm laughing like, yeah, but I'm like, dang, you know what? That's a good point. If you live with your parents, y'all have a house, maybe no one did tell you about that, and you want to be independent at 18, right? So, like, what are some things you think would have helped?
More so like directional structure, I'd say, like, more like if you like went towards like the direction we wanted to lead once we graduated and everything, like more area specific things. Like if some people were like musicians or whatever, they wanted like stuff that was more geared to that. They weren't more focused on like the traditional studies and everything. But I'll say for sure like the financial literacy for sure, that, and well, just credit and business in general.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. I feel like we should have been doing like how to build credit and stuff like that. Because most of the stuff we learned about in school, I don't need to know none of that stuff right now. Now that I'm out of school, so that's what I feel like. Yeah,
it's not preparing you for the immediate future, right?
Because I mean, my bad, but
no, go ahead.
Like us, we didn't go to college, but we still had a chance to move out of my mama's house before we was 21. So it was like easy, and then nobody tell us, oh, like everybody told us, oh, you need a degree to get a job. You really don't. Like we didn't have a job or none of that. So like it's like you really don't. I mean, like, yeah, of course you want your degree, but at the same time, it's like you don't need a degree to get a job. You don't need a degree to go get an apartment or get a crib. It's like, so I wish like we could have learned more about that too. So
very good points. And my other point to you, because even if y'all wanted to go into culinary arts, right? How was that fostered in the high school? You know what I mean? And did y'all even think that was an option, right? To even go to culinary school, right? So that's good. Very, very good points, man. So we spoke earlier about the teen who had killed the young lady, the mom, over the carjacking, man, and he was 19 years old, right? So obviously out of high school, in the worldview, an adult, right? Adult jails where he's gonna be at, right? But to me, obviously, I see like a young teen misguided. Like, how do you, from y'all perspective, like, what do you think are some of the things going on with like young men in y'all current like generation? Like, what are some things y'all are dealing with? I would say mentally.
I'll say, like, for the most part, like, the younger, more so peer pressure, and then the hype of living up to this notion of being, like, what a, I guess, man or whatever it's supposed to be, you know? And just, like, aggression for real. Like, just untempered aggression.
Okay. Aggression. Go ahead.
I say, what I say? I say people, I don't know, the kids, they listen to the music and stuff, so, and they be like just all on the internet, they I don't know how to say it, but
it's like a glorification or something.
Yeah, like they look up to the internet, so whatever they see on the internet, they'll do outside or something, like listen to people. I don't know, it's a lot, for real.
And if you would, and now that y'all are out of high school, thinking back, do you think social media in high school is a bad idea?
Definitely. When we was in high school, it wasn't like that how it is now, though.
Okay.
I say that for
But
sure.
y'all was
We
like,
built some structures for like how it is now, because remember, like, cyberbullying was very big, like 2015, 16 when it first started, and
yeah, y'all are a little old. I forgot.
Yeah.
About that. Yeah.
they was still on. What was y'all on? It wasn't
it was Kick, it was Snapchat,
Snapchat.
all of that.
Facebook.
No, for sure. But I'm thinking, like, to his point, I do think it's worse now, because what I'm seeing now is Instagram, Snap, like the visual stuff is kind of like causing things. You know, one of the high schools I was at, whenever I look at disputes and I say, well, what happened? Oh, such and such was on Instagram talking about me or commenting on my page or saying negative things, and then it spirals from there. And like one of the things I've always thought about was how social media kind of like messed up our social skills, like how y'all interact socially. But I think a point you made earlier about just the glorification when people see on the internet. What do you think like young men are looking to like be now? Like what's culturally, like what is the cool thing? I don't want to say cool, 'cause I don't want to say everybody acts like that. But what do you think is part of like the issue?
Honestly, I would probably say the artists, like the rappers who rap old, like like the rappers, they rap about bad stuff, so like they want to go do what the rappers rapping about. But a lot like me, I listen to rap, but I don't go out and do what they say. But yeah, I would probably say that's one.
Why not though? Why don't you go?
That's a good question.
I mean honestly, because
I'm not a follower.
Yeah, I'm not a follower, but it's not even that. It's just my mama raised me right, and that's another thing. A lot of people don't got people who raised them. So like my mom, I didn't have a father in my life. So my older brother, like he was out doing stuff like that. He was robbing and breaking their houses. I was looking at him. He was going to jail. I'm like, nah, that ain't the way I want to go. And me like, I just don't see myself going rob an old lady or somebody who actually out working to put on for their family. So I'm not the type to go in. And I believe in karma. Karma is always gonna come right back around. So my mama, I was raised by my mama. So like my mama and daddy. So it's like.
Go there. No, I think you got something you want to say. Go ahead there. No, you brought up
go ahead, man. Wait, man, look, that I ain't gonna even go there. I'm gonna tamper down a little bit.
You sure?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
But I will say this, man. So one, you brought up parenting, which we talked about that 2 weeks ago. I think that's parenting. We talk about parenting all the time, but we don't talk about the impact that it has on children in their decisions, right? And then let's say there's parents who are great, and then kids still just get influenced and like just go out and do stuff that like goes against what they were parented, how their parents sort of raised them. So I do get that side of the story too. But I think you raised something really, really, I think, important. And there's so many different ways I can go with this, but I'm gonna keep it simple. When we talk about, and I'm gonna go with this violence for a second. We talk about violence and conflict. There's this idea, that black men, we talk about hyper-masculinity, right? Which means pretty much black men walking around being hyped. They got to, men in general, let's be clear, I'm not just saying black men, but we all black here, so I'm going to talk about black men for today. And we the Black Male Educators Alliance. But we this hyper masculinity, this idea that like I'm tough and I'm rough and I'm this and that makes me a man. That's an idea of what a man is. If y'all can talk about, and I want to hear this from all three of y'all. I want y'all to talk about what y'all thought a man was growing up, what it means to be a man, and now being a man, what do you think it is?
I say what I thought of being a man is going to work, taking care of things you need to take care of and stuff like that. And yeah, what I think of it now, what I say now.
You think it's the same?
Yeah, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's the same for real.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. But growing up, being a man, I just thought. I just thought like you just like needed some type of income to like provide for your family. Like that's really what I thought. Like as long as you got something going on to provide for your family, that's what I thought a man was. But now it's like not like me. Like as I get older, it's like I'm still learning a lot of stuff. So like now it's really just it's really more to it. But I don't know how to explain it. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like
it's a continuing learning process.
Yeah. So I'm still learning, but
you still think though it's still part of like taking care of your family and doing that kind of stuff. What about this other? And I'm gonna let you do that. Then I'm gonna follow up. Go ahead.
All right. So like growing up, I mean, I feel like everyone does, but I had this like misguided definition of the man. I thought a man was the man, and that type of like false pretense. But now, like growing up, I'm seeing like a man is really like a worldly being, like very humble, down to earth, and you feel me, grit. We went through that in high school as well. Grind, resilience, innovation, and tenacious. Holds those qualities. Just family man oriented.
So I got a question. So I can see the themes of like manhood to y'all means taking care of responsibilities, right? Taking care of family. And I think that generally, like I guess we have that culturally. What do you think? How do you think a man deals with their emotions and deals with like their mental, if that makes sense? Like in your mind.
I feel like
go ahead.
You don't show it for real. Like most men just hide it, like, or I don't know. They'll mostly show it like by themselves type stuff. I don't think men express themselves in front of other people. Well, that's what I know. That's what I don't do. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not the type to show my emotions. I'm the type to like show my emotions like when I'm alone, like all alone. But like you'll always see me smiling, happy. Like I don't really like. I don't know. I just don't show my emotion towards people. Like even my mama, I don't show my emotion towards my mama. My mama asked me, "Hey, you good? You want to talk about stuff?" No, I'm good. Like I don't know. It's just something like. Then like I don't know. Maybe like if I had like a father telling me like, "Oh, it's okay to show your emotions," but I just never really show my emotions. So yeah.
Same here. Most battles internal. Not really like voicing. Everything for us. So yeah.
So the interesting thing is like when we think about showing our emotions, I think we're thinking about showing our like sensitive emotions because oftentimes I've seen all of y'all show y'all emotions, but it's been in the aggressive stance, right? Because I think we're okay with being aggressive because that is tied to our masculinity. And I think about that young brother who we said was soulless because he just walked up and shot that lady. But I think there was a lot of emotion in that too. Right, not making no excuses for her, for him at all. But I think that if we keep things eternal, the things that are really bothering us eternal, then they are going to come out, but they're going to come out exacerbated. And I think we're seeing a lot of that with our young brothers because y'all don't have the space to just be. Everyone is emotional, man and woman, right? Human beings have the kaleidoscope of emotions, right? But for some reason, culturally, we have decided. I mean, I don't know if it's upon ourselves, but I mean, a lot of it has to do with like protecting yourself, right? If you come off emotional, you don't come off as soft, right? So you have to be a warrior at all times, a soldier at all times. But when war is over, when you're not on the field, you don't never tap out of that, and so it's a mechanism you can't turn off. And now we are like the grown adults that truly struggle. And I'm only saying this because I'm in my 30s now, and it took me maybe my last 3 years where it started to finally like unravel. Like you ain't been honest with yourself about your emotions, or you haven't even been letting them go. You've been keeping them all inside. Now it feels like a heart attack because you have all these emotions pinned up. And I think that's a lot where our aggression comes from. And I think that's a lot of. When I hear rap music, I hear people's emotions. It just they present it in a certain way, but I hear a lot of pain. Mm-hmm. I hear a lot of like hurt. You know what I'm saying? But we can hide it behind guns and violence.
Yeah, I mean, I know we gotta wrap this up soon, man. But because we can go there, because I think you just tapped into some stuff that I want to tap into. Because I think this emotional piece is connected to what I'm saying when I talk about the soulless. Right? I think everyone's born with a soul, right? Yeah. I think over time, through trauma and those things that we experience, our souls sort of deteriorate, or we don't lose it.
We put a cocoon.
Or whatever the case may be, right?
Up.
So, as we think about that, or other young people who are out here committing crimes and doing these things, or how we even interact with each other, right? I bring up all the time. I talk about these brothers. You couldn't tell that they had a conflict in high school, right? Mm-hmm. And we got them here today because one, they're older, they're more mature, right? And like when you think about what happened in high school, it's kind of like that was stupid, right? And so I think they are an example of what it looks like whether like emotions can go to your point. If you don't deal with it, it can get aggressive, or like to what you mentioned. Around this whole idea of like the man is the man, being a man is the man. And so we put on this show when honestly internally we are dealing with a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. And so I want to challenge all of y'all, I know we got to get ready and go, to really begin to push yourselves beyond it. Like, it's okay. I don't know which one of y'all, Alonzo or Renzo. I just call y'all twins. I can't tell. I've never been able to tell the difference. I just call them twins. But like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to express yourself. Because I think if we don't, we get to a point where it comes out in this wave that's like, dang, I snapped and I didn't mean to do that because I've been holding it all this time. So give yourself permission. I'm a grown man. I'm giving all y'all permission to begin to express your emotions in a way that's healthy, right? So if your mom asks you again, are you feeling some kind of way? And you feeling sad? You can say, Mom, I'm just having one of those moments. I ain't in a good space right now, right? And give yourself permission to say that, because I think that's the journey we have to go on. And y'all young enough now that, because that stuff get picked up, that stuff starts having health. Like that starts to bother our own health.
Serious.
Right? Mm-hmm. And then we mask it by doing other things that mask our pain. Right? So I'm going to ask y'all didn't know if we was going to do this on here, but I'm asking y'all to, as y'all move forward, and we'll get y'all back on here too at some point to begin, because I want to follow up and see how y'all been doing around this. But like really begin to be open about your emotions. I can tell, like, I ain't feeling. Yesterday I was having a moment, like I ain't in a space. I'm being, and we all moody. We're humans, and sometimes I don't feel like being bothered. Mm-hmm. And I'm able to say that. I used to keep it to myself, right? So I'm gonna push y'all to do that moving forward.
Yeah, you brought up a real good point about moodiness, which I think that men don't really attribute to that, but in our feelings or being angry is a moodiness type of thing, and a lot of that has to do with not being able to recognize what that emotion is. Mm-hmm. Anger is what we put first because it's the most masculine emotion we can show outwardly to show that something's wrong. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. When it could be like, oh, I'm sad, or I'm scared, or I'm feeling guilty, or I'm feeling some type of thing. But it's important to identify what it is so that you can like get to the root of it and start to heal. And we talk about restorative practices all the time, right? And this idea of like repairing harm. Y'all got to do that with yourselves too, though.
Yeah.
right?
Forgive yourself.
Y'all all say y'all want to be providers and leaders of y'all family, y'all communities. You can't lead nobody without, you know what I'm saying, taking care of yourself. You can't take care of other people and not take care of yourself. And I've seen it, we've seen it, like men who've suffered in silence trying to be strong for everybody else and end up, you know what I'm saying, like you said, heart attack, health issues, right? Men dying earlier than women for a reason. Culturally, we have to take better care of ourselves. And I think that especially as young men, you will figure out, how do I share my emotions and tap into this side of me that I haven't and still keep the masculinity or pride or ego that I think I need to keep. Because I don't have no issues with my emotions, because I've also been I've grown to be way more confident in my masculinity, right? If it means you got to go to the gym or you got to go start boxing or whatever it is to like help you out, that's all pride and ego too. But like being okay that there's a balance. Life is all about balance, and your manhood isn't tied to just masculinity, right? Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're right. That's a whole nother episode. I feel. Yeah,
like I know. Look, we got our producer in the back, like y'all, right. 2 hours in. So we gonna wrap this up. I want y'all all, you know, you want to be a teacher? Say yes. Yeah, I'm just look, I'm gonna start recruiting y'all. I know you and I have talked about this sort of before, like potentially teaching art. So like, I want y'all to like think about like what ways y'all can be leaders, and think about going back into our schools to do the work, because they need y'all.
Yeah, mentors.
Kids need y'all. So it's either mentors or teachers. And so we're going to keep talking, and that's 2 or 3 years y'all going to be in somebody's school. But as we leave out, I want to say I love y'all.
Love you too.
Oh, then y'all said it back. Look at that, y'all. Look, see, there we go. All right, I'm all set, man. I'm Payne. Go ahead and close us out.
So, gentlemen, once again, so thank you. Good to see y'all, and thank you for joining us on the show, man. I appreciate y'all. It takes a lot of courage to be on TV and, you know, in front of the cameras and all that. But you know, you probably get some new viewers and all that, new followers. But thank you for joining. Thank you, Dr. Lewis. This is another episode of the BMEA Podcast. We'll see you again in 2 weeks on the February 9th. Lifting our voices. Thank you.
You are now listening
to the Black Male Educators Alliance podcast.
Lifting our voices.
Lifting our voices.